Welcome to a self-published author's diary. I am Elodie Novodatsky. I write about first time, second chances, things that scare the crap out of me, and things that make me laugh out loud. I'll be speaking with you and sharing my adventures in self-publishing, the behind the scenes of writing, and the business side of it. And before we get started today, a small message from our sponsor, Anchor. Thanks for listening. Hello, I am actually recording this on Sunday, April 3rd. Yes, you heard that right. For the first time in a very long time, I'm actually following through with my schedule for the podcast in terms of recording. I mean, I always follow through when it comes to uploading it and making sure it's available on Tuesdays, but I always say I'm going to be recording it on Sundays, and I never do. And today I am. For the past few episodes, I've been having notes. I actually prepare an entire, not script, but kind of another script where I go through, my transitions, where I make sure that I write down what I'm going to be saying and everything. But for this episode, I am not doing that because it's a review episode. And so I already have the structure of what I'm going to be talking about because I'm going to review what my goals were for March, what I achieved, what has worked, what hasn't. But before I jump into that, I want to say that I did watch Bridgerton. I watched, spoiler alert, I watched all the Kate and Anthony parts of Bridgerton season 2. And I love them. I love the chemistry. I love the longing, the banter. I know it's very different than the book when it comes to the conflict, but to me, it had to be done that way because otherwise the conflict for season 1 and season 2 would have been pretty similar. I know in the book, it's very big on the fact that, Anthony having to marry because they need to avoid a scandal is kind of ironic because he berated his sister and his friend for the same thing in the previous book. But I think in that case, it actually works better that they've changed for the TV medium, that they changed the relationship with the sister and everything else. I think it works well. I think otherwise it might have been just a bit repetitive in terms of season 1 and season 2, especially for people who binge watch season 1 and season 2. I think it makes sense and I loved it. And I'm going to actually rewatch it by watching the full episodes. I usually don't do that, or at least I haven't done that in a while, like skipping to my favorite parts. But I just wanted to see that story unfolding, and I was just very impatient. I really, really enjoyed it. Otherwise, I started watching We Crash on Apple, and we had already seen the documentary, so it's not very new, but it's mind-boggling. I'll just leave it at that in case you have not watched it. So when it comes to March, I grew my TikTok account for a self-published author's diary to more than 1,000. I have 1,005, I think, followers on that account, and I have done that by really just focusing on self-publishing and my ups and downs in self-publishing, which is pretty much what this podcast is about. So using also trending sounds and me talking and a lot of 3 reasons why I regret not choosing a pen name, which I shared last week on the episodes podcast. On last week's podcast episode. And 3 reasons why I love self-publishing. 3 reasons why I decided to self-publish on Kindle Vella. Like, I'm using a lot of those type of posts, which I'm hoping are helpful. And then a lot of, I think, relatable posts using trending sounds on things that I'm still learning. Like, when am I going to finally figure out Facebook and Amazon ads? That type of posts. I am trying to cheer people on their, wherever they are on their writing career, whether it's self-publishing or traditional publishing or hybrid publishing, but also commiserate when things are not going the way people are going, because, sometimes, cheering people on, I think, is important, but sometimes it's also important to just acknowledge when something sucks. And so it's part of what I'm trying to do on the platform with that account. And I am enjoying being on TikTok for that particular account. It's fun. And then for the other accounts that I have, I've decided my Elodie Novodatsky account, which is me, which is weird to say, my Elodie Novodatsky account. But I will be doing more about the writing process and romance and what I'm reading and everything. But I'm not doing it as much niche down as what I'm doing for a self-published author's diary. And what I'm doing I have a Kindle Vella account. So for the story that I'm writing on Kindle Vella, and that one is basically just page flips and duets and showing book aesthetics. That's what I'm doing for that account, solely on the story that I'm writing. And it's the same thing for the Swansco series romance book talk account. It's only page flips and it's only excerpts and it's only really niching down to the types of books that I'm writing. I've also, the dog is snoring next to me, so if you hear him, this is what's happening. So I've also changed what I'm using to check my cells and keep track of my cells. I used to use Trackerbox, but they haven't updated the software. And so I could no longer upload my draft to digital reports. So I've decided to use Scribe Count. I'll put the link in this episode's description. It's free to use until you reach 1,000 in royalties per month. And then you have to pay a fee then per month. But right now, since I do not make more than $1,000 per month on royalties, well, for me, it's free. And I found the graphs and the details very, very useful in terms of looking at what I'm doing when it comes to Kindle Unlimited versus wide. I have some books that are wide. I have some books that are in Kindle Unlimited. It's very helpful also for the lifetime numbers. So this is what I'm currently using. And so far, I think this has been useful. When it comes to my royalties in March 2022, 71.7% of my royalties came from Amazon. 28.3% of my royalties came from other platforms. For the 71.7%, of my royalties that came from Amazon, 93.2% were sales and 6.8% were Kindle Unlimited. So from pages read. If you look at the format of my entire revenue in March 2022, 60.7% came from ebooks, 34.4% came from paperbacks, and 4.9% came from Kindle Unlimited reads, like pages. Taking a closer look at the platforms, 73.5% of my revenues came from Amazon KDP, 22.1% came from Draft to Digital, 4.4% came from Google Books. And if I'm looking closer at Draft to Digital, out of the units sold on Draft to Digital, 45% were sold on Apple, 22.5% were sold on Tolino, 17.5% were sold on Kobo, 7.5% were sold on Overdrive. So to Overdrive, I guess, because it's the libraries. 5% was on Barnes & Noble, and the rest was on Viglio. In terms of geographical locations, most of my sales came from Germany, followed by France, Italy, the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. I also had sales in Brazil and in the Netherlands and in South Africa, in Spain, and in Greece as well. So this is the recap of the statistics I got from that dashboard Scribe Count for the month of March 2022. Now, when it comes to what I had planned on doing last month for March and what I actually did do. So when it comes to the English-German audiobook, I wanted to remove it from production. It's the One Dream Only English-German audiobook. I wanted to remove it from production. I wanted to change the contract to non-exclusive with ACX, and I wanted to upload it on Findaway and ACX and then publish it. And I've done that, that has been accomplished. I was able to remove it from production. I was able to re-upload it. I was able to change the contract. I was able to upload it on Findaway Voices and back on ACX, and I've published it on both Medium, and it's available pretty much everywhere you can get audiobooks. I've had my first few sales, and I'm crossing my fingers that it continues to sell and that it becomes another channel to get more royalties. I am not doing any ads with it. I did announce it on my newsletter. I also announced it on my Facebook and over social media, but I will continue to talk about it on my blog, and I will also probably at some point write emails actually to some schools who are teaching German, like high schools and universities who are teaching German to undergrads, and see if they may be interested in getting that for their library, or letting their students know that this resource exists for people who are learning German here in the US. And then at some point, I might try to contact people in Germany who are teaching English also in other schools, so that they're aware that this resource exists. Because as a language learner years ago, I really enjoyed the bilingual books that I used to get at the library or at the bookstore. I remember reading ghost stories in English and French, and those ghost stories were very well written, which may be why I actually started drafting ghost short stories last year when I was trying to get back into writing. And it is on my back burner as something that I want to revise and edit, and then actually also do as bilingual stories. Then I was supposed to format every day the bilingual version of Always Second Best in English and Italian. And I did for I think for a week. But then I stopped because I realized there were some sentences that I had changed in the English version, but the Italian version that I was using was not the ones that I had the changes. So I need to go back and make sure I'm using the right document, because I don't want to mess it up. Everything I did so far is good, like it's correct, but I want to make sure that when I continue, it stays to be the same text, because it's one side in English and one side in Italian. So I want to make sure those ones match. I wanted to prepare the bilingual version of A Summer Like No Other in Portuguese English. I didn't have the time to do that. And the reason why I didn't have the time to do that is because I did actually do more on TikTok for Self-Published Authors Diaries podcast. And I also I listened to more classes than I did before. So I had purchased the mini Incon classes. I had not yet watched the videos of the classes. They had Profit for Win, they had Cover, and right now there's something with Becca Syme on authors and burnout and productivity and everything else. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm spending some time listening to those classes. I also attended more free classes that have been very interesting. So that's what I've been spending a lot of my time also doing, in addition to writing and in addition to self-publishing the Kindle Vella story, which was another thing I had on my to-do list, which was publish the first 5 episodes of my new Kindle Vella story, which I'm publishing under a pen name. And I did it. I published it. And I had readers. This has been the most exciting for me right now, is that the only marketing that I've done for my Kindle Vella story is on TikTok, under that pen name that I'm using for the Kindle Vella story. And I'm guessing it works because I've had readers and I have no idea where they're coming from. Because it's not like my story is super high ranked right now. So I'm not on the front page. So there were a few tags that I was on the first page of because there was not a lot of stories. So it could be that some readers are looking for that type of stories and are finding my Kindle Vella story, and that's where they're reading it from. I have 8 people following that story already. And I find that pretty interesting and very encouraging because I did not do a lot of promo for it. I'm also still having fun writing it. I had tried to get an episode for this Friday, but I published it and it got live faster. So it got published, I think, on Wednesday even instead of Friday. So for next week, I'm going to try to schedule it. Otherwise, I'll just hit publish on Wednesday instead of Tuesday so that maybe it comes in on Friday. I haven't decided how I'm going to do that yet, but there will be an episode next week of my Kindle Vella story, and I'll keep updating you. I will, especially once I have the bonus announcement, because it's, as I've said last week, it's not very clear to me what each component weighs in terms of the bonus, in calculating the bonus. So I will let you know with my data what bonus I'm getting. So that might be helpful to know if you're trying to decide whether or not it's worth it. Because right now the royalties for me on those stories, it's $1. But it's not like I would have had that dollar with only publishing 6 episodes or 6 chapters of a book on Kindle Unlimited, because it's not a completed story. It's not even a novella at this stage. It's just me drafting the story. So it will be interesting to see if it's helping me gain more royalties as I'm drafting something, instead of having to wait until the book is completed and the book is uploaded, and then 2 more months after that until you get the royalties. So I will let you know, not that the money or the royalties that I'm going to get from Kindle Vella, it's also delayed because it's the same as a regular month of KDP, which means you get it 60 days, I think, afterwards. But I'm still something that I'm drafting, that is not completed. I also wanted to do the box set of Gavert's CD in French and put up the next one for pre-order in French, and that I have not done either, but that there is a different reason. I've decided to put the first one of the Gavert CD in French for free. So it's going to be La Peur dans le Sang, it's going to be free, it's going to be perma-free, because I want to get more readers for that series, and I want to see how the perma-free in that series can work, because it works so well for a summer like no other. But it's different because a summer like no other kind of ends on a happily for now, and you have to wait for the second book to get to the happily ever after. While for Fear Me, Fear Me Not, for that series, each book is really a standalone. But I have changed the ending in English to make it more that, yes, that story is wrapped up, but what's going to happen in the next story is kind of like already set up in the ending of Fear Me, Fear Me Not. And I want to double check that I've actually updated the French book to reflect that. And if I haven't, I want to update it and then put it as perma-free. When it comes to a summer like no other in French, I don't have to do any ads or any really marketing for it to work in terms of gaining traction on different e-retailers. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for that particular series in French. Fear Me, Fear Me Not in the Gavert CD series is still in Kindle Unlimited on Amazon, but I will put it out of Kindle Unlimited once it's done, because as I've mentioned last week, I really think I'm going to do wide for the win with my Elodie Novodatsky books, and then I will invest more in terms of material, which means novellas and books, with my pen name on Kindle Unlimited. Once I finish my Kindle Vella story, it's going to go into Kindle Unlimited. This is the plan. And for April, my main goal is actually to finish drafting Sweets for Love, because there will not be a podcast for 2 weeks. So this is my main goal, because April is going to be pretty busy with amazing things, but still pretty busy. So stay tuned for the next episode of this podcast, which will not be next week and will not be in 2 weeks. I am taking a 2-week break. It's in spring. It's not even in the summer, but I am taking a 2-week break from the podcast, and I will be back at the end of April with a brand new episode. In the meantime, Thank you again so much for listening. Please do subscribe, share with your friends, catch up on old episodes. And to all writers out there, happy writing. And to everybody, happy reading.